super scary, super scary. We're going to talk about the coof. We're going to talk about all the stuff they told us over and over and over again. Everything that they told us was the science that we all know now was not true. And even though those crazy people on the right kept telling you that it was not true, you just went on and just, believed everything because the person in a white coat told you that it was true, or they have a D next to their name. Definitely. Okay, so let's take a look at this. All right, let's see what we're going to see. So 10 myths told about COVID, experts, and that are now debunked. Here we go. In the past few weeks, a series of analyses published by highly respected researchers have exposed a truth about public health officials during COVID. Much of the time, they were wrong. To be clear, public health officials were not wrong for making recommendations based on what they know at the time. That's understandable. You go with the data that you have. No, they were wrong because they refused to change their directives in the face of new evidence. Science. Yeah. When a study does not support their policies, they dismiss it and censor opposing opinions. At the same time, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention weaponized research itself by putting out its flawed studies in its own non-peer-reviewed medical journals. That's just lovely. In the final analysis, public health officials actively propagated misinformation that ruined lives and forever damaged public trust in the medical profession. So, what did they say? All the stuff we know now. Number 1, natural immunity offers little protection compared to vaccinated immunity. Yeah, we basically do this. We've done this for hundreds of years. A Lancet study took a look at 65 major studies in 19 countries on natural immunity. The researchers concluded that natural immunity was at least as effective as the primary coof vaccine series. So great. Don't you feel great that you got that jab? You feel much better, don't you? Yes. In fact, the scientific data was there all along. From 160 studies, despite the findings of these studies violating Facebook's quote-unquote misinformation policy, since the Athenian plague of 430 BC, that was the Black Death, it has been observed that those who recovered after infection were protected against severe disease if reinfected. So basically, we've known this for centuries. 2,000 years. What are you talking about? Well, not 2,000. 1,500. Number 2, masks prevent COVID transmission. Well, Dr. Fauci told you they did not at the beginning, and then he said, no, you have to wear them everywhere. Cochrane reviews are considered the most authoritative and independent assessment of the evidence in medicine. And one published last month by a highly respected Oxford research team found that masks had no significant impact on COVID transmission. Duh. Okay, let's move on. Misinformation number 3, school closures reduce COVID transmission. The CDC ignored the European experience of keeping schools open without masks mandates. Transmission rates were no different, evidenced by studies conducted in Spain and Sweden. Number 4, this one's just coming out recently. Myocarditis from the vaccine is less common than from the infection itself. Public health officials downplayed concerns about vaccine-induced myocarditis, or inflammation of the heart muscle. They cited poorly designed studies that undercaptured complicated rates. A flurry of well-designed studies said the opposite. We now know that myocarditis is 6 to 28 times more common after the COVID vaccine in people who were infected 16 to 24. Yes. So aren't you glad you gave your 16-year-old son that vaccine? Yes, I'm sure you are. And once again, that's 16 to 24-year-old males. It did not affect women this way. Number 5, young people benefit from vaccine boosters. We always know it was an old disease. It was old disease unless you had other complications. Boosters reduced hospitalizations in older and higher risk Americans, but the evidence was never there that they lowered COVID mortality in young, healthy people. That's probably why the CDC chose not to publish its data on hospitalization rates among boosted Americans under 50. Isn't that lovely? Yes, it's lovely. Misinformation number 6, vaccine mandates increase vaccination rates. Wow, that's a new one to me. So I'm going to skip that one because that's the first time I've heard of that one. The rest of these I've heard of, and I heard a long time ago. Number 7, COVID originated from the Wuhan lab is a conspiracy theory. This just came out now. We've known it for 2 years. I mean, yeah, a virus that comes from Wuhan, and there's a virology lab there. There's no coincidence there at all. Okay. Google admitted to suppressing searches for lab leaks during the pandemic. Dr. Francis Collins, head of the National Institutes of Health, claimed, and still does, he didn't believe the virus came from a lab. Ultimately, overwhelming circumstantial evidence points to a lab leak origin, the same origin suggested to Dr. Fauci by 2 very prominent virologists in January 2020. That's January 2020, meaning he assembled at the beginning of the pandemic. According to the documents obtained by Fox News, they told Fauci and Collins that the virus may have been manipulated and originated in a lab, but then suddenly changed their tune in public comments after the meeting with NIH officials. The virologists were later awarded $9 million from Fauci's agency. Yeah, we think it came from a lab. Oh, no, it didn't come from a lab. Here's $9 million. Do you think it came from a lab? No, we don't think it came from a lab. Oh, that's awesome. That's wonderful. Number 8, it was important to get those second vaccine doses 3 or 4 weeks after the first dose. This was also news to me. Data was clear in the spring of 2021. Jeez. Just months after the vaccine rollout, that spacing the vaccine out by 3 months reduces complication rates and increases immunity. Misinformation number 9, data on the bivalent vaccine is crystal clear. This one was rather scary. It came out almost a year ago, I believe, and I didn't believe it. I just didn't think that something could be approved, but I guess it was. Dr. Jaja famously said this despite the bivalent vaccine being proved using data from 8 mice. Yeah, that's awesome. Number 10, 1 in 5 people get long COVID. You remember all the discussion about long COVID? Well, yes, I guess it's BS. Basically, it's often normal to experience mild fatigue or weakness for weeks after being sick and active and not eating well. Calling these cases long COVID is the medicalization of ordinary life. Why am I talking about this? Okay. Why am I talking about this? Well, because of this. What's most amazing about all the misinformation conveyed by the CDC and public health officials is that there have been no apologies for holding on to their recommendations for so long after the data became apparent that they were just dead wrong. Public health officials said, "You must," when the correct answer should have been, "We're not sure." Early on, in the absence of good data, public health officials chose a path of stern paternalism. Today, they're in denial of a mountain of strong studies showing that they were wrong. Okay, this is why I'm talking about this. Okay, I heard about this and I did a search on Google. Here's my search on Google, 10 myths of the COVID shutdown. The only thing that I could find was this article. Nobody else seems to be talking about this. Not one. Now we get a trickle here, a trickle there, a trickle there, a trickle there. So it's not all in one big group. So you can't see it all together. And we have a serious problem right now. We have 50% of the population who will trust anything that comes out of the mouth of someone wearing a white coat or someone who has a D after their name. Everything they say is gospel. And I hate to tell you this, scientists are like everybody else. They have biases. They have their own agendas. They like money. They like power. They like to advance their careers. So no, their word is not gospel. Okay. And now we have 50% of the population who will never believe you ever again. And that is seriously dangerous. You're looking at a cat right here who, if you've known me for a long time, people ask me, well, what are you afraid of? Well, I'm not afraid of climate change. Asteroid, maybe, I suppose that's possible. What I've always been afraid of is a pandemic, because about every 100, 200 years or so, one comes along and basically eliminates about 30% of us. If we're really unlucky, more like 50% of us. And now, because of this, because of what happened, because you lied and lied and lied and suppressed information and told doctors they couldn't talk and all of that type of stuff, nobody will ever believe you. So guys, this might be the last time I'm on YouTube, because this is all the stuff they don't want us to talk about. So, subscribe, like, comment, share this. We need to get this out, and just tell everybody, just don't trust anybody in a white coat. You need second opinions. You need to look. You need to search. You need to be informed. Don't just take someone's word for it. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one.